I've only got one arm with no explanation as to where I'm going or who I'm fighting. All I know is that every step is enchanting. Severed is a first-person action game where you swipe the screen in tactical angles to damage foes and parry against attacks. There's no room for a shield because of your severed arm. One hand heavily holding the VITA nicely emulates a one-armed form. Severed eases you in with a clear tutorial on how to fight and parry. Early foes start out easy and you can take your time attacking and anticipating incoming attacks. But being approached from all four sides quickly instills a sense of urgency. It won't be long until you'll swipe furiously just to survive. There's more to the swiping as you'll eventually attain more skills that require mana. You're also constantly encouraged to think of ways to fill your focus meter in order to sever foes' limbs before you kill them. Their limbs are the only sort of items you can carry around in the game, and they act as a currency for you to get stronger. There's also an RPG-like element in the character progression in the form of skill trees, with skills developed in exchange for severed limbs obtained from enemies and the environment. I'm pleased to say that each skill is tempting enough to vie for and invites planning. Other forms of progression involves collecting heart pieces for life and brain parts for mana. In the late game, you'll be able to track down mementos to add useful bonuses. Fighting is only one half of Severed, with the other being exploration that incorporates environmental puzzles. They're pleasingly balanced in difficulty and variety that they don't put your momentum to a screeching halt, but they still provide a sense of accomplishment once getting around them. There is no fast travel, but a map this compact and clear doesn't need one. Plus, having to walk to get around allows immersion, one of this game's strengths. Unexplored areas are shaded gray and you can scroll through the different floors so you know exactly where to go if you want to explore further. There are also warp tunnels that give the world a sense of circularity and convenience. The art of Severed feels almost ethereal and it only grows on you each time you play. There aren't many characters to talk to, but the few that are around are animated and lively that it's good to come across them every so often. The ambient sounds add so much to give a sense of place and can range from being soothing to haunting, with tinges of tribal inspiration. The two main issues I had with Severed were rather beyond the developer's control. One was that gripping the VITA in intense battles became more of a technique that bordered on becoming a hindrance when swiping so ferociously. At times, I ended up having to choose between getting a good grip or being comfortable with the left analog stick. It didn't help that my swinging hand would block the indicators that enemies were about to attack from around the corner. A table is definitely recommended. 2 was that the VITA screen was prone to moisture, especially in cooler climates or room temperatures that make your warm touch condense. This makes touch controls erratic, so a screen cloth specifically is a must-have. Severed brings the perfect mix of enemy variety, inclining difficulty, and room for player skill to grow that makes battles feel like a fight. There's a good number of monster variety that demand to be slashed in unique ways. Later fights see harder versions of the same enemy. For instance, some need charged slashes before being able to damage them, which surprisingly alters how fights ought to be approached. At first I thought the game was being too forgiving by allowing respawns close to the encounter with practically no punishing effects, but I soon learned the valuable opportunity to retry as, coupled with the difficulty of late game fights, it has an arcade hook to how you're invited to try again after every brutal death. At times the game can be downright devilish. It's in these instances that fights demand to be solved like puzzles, forcing you to come up with answers such as which skills to trigger first and which monsters to initiate. When I start to tense up thanks to the energy I invested in mindful swiping, winning a fight becomes so much more rewarding. The game can be finished in about 6 to 7 hours, including the extra bits of places to explore to gather more collectibles. The story's brevity certainly doesn't take away from the experience, as the game knows how to play its strengths and never overstays its welcome. Severed succeeds in implementing mobile phone simplicity with elements of RPG character progression and engaging fights. With a system like the VITA that's cut off from premier first-party support, Severed is a gem that shines brilliantly.